So, okay, I have recently just spent nearly about 90 hours straight going through the entire game of Cyberpunk 2077. I keep trying to say 2027, but it's not the real name, is it? And I think it's good. Okay, thanks. Psych, you cheeky bastards. In actuality, oh my god, I want to talk about this game. So we probably got about several hours worth of content by the time I'm done writing this massive video essay I'm writing.
Wait
So
the
stay
fuck
the
up,
fuck up,
samurai.
samurai, because we've got a game to viscerally review and fundamentally. Yeah, let's just chill out. Okay, look, I played the game and I fell in love with it in so many ways, and can also see so many problems that ironically make me love the game more. However, when I look at the game on the internet, like I look it up and stuff, there's obviously a lot of polarization about it. Like for some people support the game for many of its cool aspects, like the writing and the gameplay and just the ideas and just the imagination. Then there's a lot of criticism for um, gameplay, story, bugs, and so on. However, I would say that, like, for a lot of the cyberpunk discourse, there are just a lot of bad faith arguments and kind of a lot of dismissal of cyberpunk, as well as just making fun of it. And, like, yeah, I understand all the criticism, especially around its technical difficulties in the beginning and, like, its controversial release, its disappointing of many different expectations, and faith in gaming in general. But, well, I mean, I wouldn't be making this to. I'm not going to be making a video talking all about the bad. No, it's kind of a reason why I'm making this video. And, like, the reason why I'm making this video series in the first place is just I kind of just want to talk about it, and this is my YouTube channel. And because alternate history content is difficult to do anyways, why not talk about something I enjoy and love doing, which is gaming. And God, I love gaming. You know, if this video series does well, I think I may do more gaming content. But anyway, look, the reason why I'm making this, I just want to talk about it. I played the game and I love it so much. And the point of this series is not so much to talk about the past, but it's entirely about how cyberpunk is in the present, and I will be meticulously dissecting literally everything, from the lore to the setting to the gameplay to the plot beats to even the most ignored aspects like the slang, side quests, porn ads and gigs and so on. However, before we go in, there are like three different rules I am following. And the first one is, firstly, and most obviously, I am not going to talk about the development or the expectations set by CD Projekt Red, the developers behind the game, because, look, to be honest, I don't care. You can be an incompetent or naive studio or creator, but if you create something worth evaluating, you should be given a fair chance, which is why I'll be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty and hell, maybe even Edge Runners once I watch the show with full attention to detail. I'm gonna immerse myself in sludge. Yeah, well, I don't think it's you get the point. Secondly, we're not going to be looking through the game via the lenses of like references or current study in cyberpunk fictional culture or basis. We can make all the references to Blade Runner we'd like, but I can't, as I am actually quite limited in this area of subculture. And besides, it'd be unfair to constantly judge the game via the standards of other pieces of media or the references it makes. And like, as a quick thing about references, I don't care if you have references as long as they make sense and are pretty good. You can have all the references in the world. And thirdly, and most obviously, we shall be doing this in good faith. Because, many people, when the game was launched, said that the game was a scam. And I can understand why they did that. And But there is like a flaw in that accusation, because if it was so, why would CD Projekt Red go through the efforts of doing their best to fix the game? Well, I say fix, there are still some issues. And secondly, why do they bother to develop and work on the Phantom Liberty DLC and doing their best to essentially rebuild this game's reputation? And if the game was so hated, why did Cyberpunk Edge Runners, that Netflix anime show, become such a beloved piece of media? And why, even now with a second season, I believe, in the works, why it's being so hyped up? Look, simply put, I will be fair and honest about my opinions and frame my perspective as simply anyone who knows little, and talk about the game just how it is. Although, before we dive deep into it, for the sake of transparency, I'm going to be honest about my biases and just, you know, what I what type of player I am. But the thing is that Cyberpunk 2077 was designed to be an open world action game with like role playing options and free to roam storylines and missions with numerous endings attached and, game lasting things. And whilst not whilst not a concept limited to Cyberpunk, to be frank, I think that these types of games most of the time are actually pretty shit. You need to leave. Like, what do I mean by that? Okay, look. Fallout 4, it's a pretty fun shooter. The only reason I really play the game anymore is just to get that cult single action. But aside from that, the game has a terrible plot and some of the most shallow character development I've ever seen, other than I don't know, my Irish girlfriend Kate. Um then there's Fallout New Vegas, and despite all of the endless dick riding against, I honestly believe it is, well, look, you can't really remember anything about the game other than the prostitutes and the debate between Kaisar's Legion enslaving everyone and the NCR uh, neo American exceptionalism, and whether slavery or taxes are actually valid arguments for governance in a post apocalyptic wasteland. Look, I think if you couldn't get it by now, I think New Vegas is actually pretty bad. Well, not bad in I think everything about it is awful. I think it's just not a very good game. But then you got Skyrim 5, the one with the Dragonborn, I believe that one is, if I'm correct. That game is so boring. I fell asleep. I'm not even joking on that one. Then you have the Outer Worlds, which is really not that fun and is kind of real. It's really boring. Genuinely, it is a really boring game. All it is just a corporate satire, and it's not even a really funny corporate satire. Or then you have Detroit Become Human, and look, I think that game and the writers are the most ignorant people about the topics of racism, AI rights, and the Holocaust. Just keep sticking with me, please, and so on. So that game also sucks. Or to my pain, even Near Automata also suffers from this open-ended concept of multiple endings. Not because the endings are bad per se, but because look, nobody has the time to play the game for 50 goddamn hours and keep playing the game over and over and over again. Look, the only reason I'm mentioning so many titles is just to prove to you that I'm not an ignorant ass wipe. And look, whilst all those games have flaws, I will wholeheartedly agree that Cyberpunk can be criticized for its lack of the ability to make meaningful choices and role playing options, But oddly enough, I actually think that this absence of true free will actually comes at a massive benefit to the game because it means the story is tighter, the character development is way better, gameplay features that the game does have are way more. Oh yeah, they're way more fleshed out. Ironically enough, because this is Cyberpunk, there's no flesh left in the world. But aside from that, I think that the game overall is better than all of its contemporaries because its lack of freedom allows for a more meaningful game. And as a side note, um, the further we get along the game, I'm going to be using as one of Cyberpunk's endings as the canon ending, but because of the quality of the ability of the writers of this game, I think every ending can be considered canon, but I'm going to consider one of them as canon. So, now that we have that all out of the way, you, my victims of forced YouTube attention rates, we shall begin our magical and very long journey through perhaps one of the most controversial and landmark video game titles in gaming history. And let me personally explain why I think Cyberpunk 2077 is the greatest game to have ever been made. All right, done reading damn all of the lore for this game, and yeah, um, just to be clear, Cyberpunk 2077, the entire world it's built in, all of the lore, all of the character, well, no, I don't think all the characters, but all of the backstory, it's from a fucking role playing game. Not just any role playing game, a board game of all things. It's a real board game. I think it is just called Cyberpunk Red, is it? Yeah, it is a role playing game. From Mike Pondsmith, of all people. God damn, this guy is really creative. I gotta give it to him. Alright, okay. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. So, and from that board game, we have lore. And so much lore. It makes the Silmarillion look like a fucking Dr. Seuss book. The bits of lore in the game itself are barely scratching the surface of just how dense this thing is. And alright, I need to find some uncopyrighted music for me to explain it with. Now then, the lore is this. The Cold War ended not with the collapse of the Soviet Union, but with the collapse of the United States, with its government falling into a Gang of Four style dictatorship in the 1980s as they tried to reassert an anti communist foreign policy across the world in response to the continued existence of the USSR and the rise of the People's Republic of China. This saw numerous other great events, where the economies of the world became re-centered on Europe, making the European Economic Community the new superpower of the world. Then there was the rise of the Japanese and the idea of the megacorporations. But before long, the 2000s came, and things went to shit. Oh my god, ecological destruction, the destruction of the middle, oh god, resource wars, government collapse. Instead of a new peaceful world order emerging, one of insanity and misery rose. But not just that. Humanity itself changed with the rise of cybernetics and the net, allowing for every person to become weapons, tools, commodities in and of themselves. However, society itself collapsed into disorder and depravity as this new cyberware where I can't fucking talk, as this new cyberware technology arose, with everything getting consumed into the unadulterated capitalist system. God, I'm sounding like a commie. Anyway, sex, water, homes, even souls are now commodified for the interests of corporations. And speaking of the corpse, they have come to dominate the entire world. Economies, governments, and even entire well, it's mostly economies and governments, but also entire cultures are in their pockets. Even the communist nations of the world are essentially wrapped around megacorp interests. And the capital of this new world order is Night City. Tall, filthy, self-cannibalizing. It's the center of the world in all of the wrong ways, and is the center of a new, worse Cold War. It's a place where corpos play, where gangs rule with glee, where nomads fight for their survival. But not between capitalism and communism, no, 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 but between the megacorps of Arasaka and Militech. God damn, I should really become a voice actor. But anyway, Arasaka, the Japanese megacorp, is the product of the ideals of Japanese supremacism and the inability to accept one's mistakes. Founded by the man Saburo Arasaka, he is the god of this new cyberpunk world, with a deep hatred of the United States, and has been driven to restore the power of Japan, even at the cost of the humanity of the world. And Militech is the product of American exceptionalism, a corporation deeply ingrained in American militarism and Jesus Christ, I need to fix my diet. But ingrained in American militarism and unity, trying to rebuild a destroyed America. They are a direct counter to Arasaka, even fighting the Fourth Corporate War to kick out Arasaka influence from North America, even if it has meant that the new United States has lost everything it has once stood for, making the lines between Militech and the Feds impossible to distinguish. And in this new Cold War order, it is up to individuals of every type to rise up and determine the fate of it. Now then, with my lore rant, if you listen to it, I haven't even scratched the surface. I actually gave you the most easy to understand summarization of the lore. I genuinely encourage you to look into the Cyberpunk wiki for the history of the world of Cyberpunk 2077 and like the board game and CD Projekt Red. Because oh my god, there are so many projects and just bits of lore that just talk about the world. It really is fascinating. And yeah, I will be discussing the lore more often throughout this video essay series, but I'm only going to talk about what's available in-game, but still, this stuff is very fascinating. Now, the reason why I'm even mentioning the lore is, well, even if my explanation is lackluster, is just to show how much love and care went into being faithful when Cyberpunk 2077 was created. Because Christ, there's an entire slang language in this game. There's a unique sort of new cyberpunk culture, and even explorations of just how absurd and eerily topical this game's world is. Even little things like chooms, or even the references to the original artwork and concepts for characters like Alt Cunningham and Johnny Silverhand, which is quite a last name, and this is my favorite thing in the entire game, the Malorian 3516. And while that gun in particular is not a core artwork idea, I love that this world just allows for practically anything to be personalized for any character in the world, like the Silverhand gun, for example. This ridiculous weapon of just pure egotism. This world just lets you think of something and lets it exist. It's all of these details and so on that really just drew me into the Cyberpunk fandom, even before I started playing the game. But now that we understand some of the context of this world, we really ought to take our first kiddie pool steps into Night City, the city of, Well, it says dreams, but it's more like ultraviolence and commercialized mass sex. Like, Jesus Christ, there are ads for Milfgard and other various porn films, or brain dances, as it's probably called. It's really funny. I can't show them to you, obviously, because I'd get hit with the rusty pipe of demonetization, but still, it's ridiculous. You know, Night City as a setting is like, despite how zany it is oddly and kind of eerily realistic to just plausibly think would come about. Unlike other fictional settings, yeah, this place is zany. No one can deny that. But it also has a kind of realistic air about it. Like, you have domineering skyscrapers covered in massive advertisements and symbols of the corporations.
I shall not run Britain like a country, I shall run Britain like a business!
You have really filthy and disgusting streets where gangs and other gonks, as they say in the game. There's vast industrial sectors that are crumbling under the effects of post-industrialism.
Time for free market reforms, motherfuckers!
And huge deserts that are the symbols of the ruins of the environment where nomads dwell and stay off the grid from the effects of mega super capitalism.
Common ownership of their own country, I'd rather shit myself.
It's like, think of Flint, Michigan. Put steroids in the water, then watch as the people turn it into a megacity, and then your depiction of Night City is perfect. And the denizens... Well, there's really three types of people that define the social structure that is kind of brilliantly described in, like, big character creation, but to go over them, firstly, you have the nomads, perhaps like the freest people since they're not bound by the feds or the Night City police. However, life is still difficult as a nomad because it's a constant war for survival and clan supremacy to ensure your survival, like Big Boss and his diamond dogs. Then there are the street kids.
Don't trust those rabble-rousing little communist bastards, you fool!
The majority of people, and the most perhaps versatile social class in Night City, but they are forced into constant destitution and crime, often getting involved in gang activities, whilst many individuals are also seeking fame and glory. And they're kind of like every African warlord or soldier in post-colonial history, thinking they're going to become the head of the government, but then getting stabbed by their allies. And then finally there are the corpos, and they're kind of a sort of new sort of feudal class that run the world currently. Not as lords or ladies, but as secretaries, interns, employees, and tech and sales reps of Arasaka, Militech, Zetatech, Biotechnica, Kuroshi, and so on, and do whatever the hell they want without care. Whilst, of course, making sure they bend the knee to their bosses. They may be shooting up gonks in the lower classes, but their bosses still get to do whatever the hell they want to them. Okay, alongside these social classes, in Night City, I have to give it to the developers, but they put in just the right amount of, like, various different groups and factions that divide the territory of Night City and shape it to their will, just like my sister when she steals my fucking TV remote controller to control my parents into giving her what she wants. But moving past familial trauma, starting with the corpos, I already mentioned that there's Arasaka and Militech. But there are others like Biotechnica, which does biological research and totally does not commit genocide against nomads. Or you have the smart weapons manufacturer THOW, which is just a Chinese knockoff of Arasaka. Every fucking thing in China. Or the cyberware company Kuroshi, which is the reason why you don't fucking die on, like, level 1 because Karoshi is there to protect you. Because they are not a medical company, they're an arms manufacturer. Because who the hell is producing praying mantis arms and a literal artillery cannon in your arm? And then there's my personal favorite corporation, Trauma Team, who are so single-minded on their goal of purely making sure you don't fucking die in 7 minutes, so then they have to be refunded. They are ironic. Trauma Team is unironically the most trusted corporation on the planet. However, most of these corporations are, shockingly, not trustworthy. Oh my god, who knew that? And they actively use the people and institutions in Night City to achieve their own aims. One of the most obvious signs of this is their manipulation of the street kid population. Aside from street kids relying on fixtures or, other gonks to do their jobs or dirty work for them, sometimes the corporations just have direct control over the gangs of Night City, making the average street kid life miserable. Arasaka, for instance, they control a gang called the Tiger Claws, a Yakuza wannabe gang with sadists and literal katana weeaboo users who definitely watch shady hentai, whilst murdering everyone, whilst also running brothels, and luxury entertainment places, like the Japanese government between 1937 to 1952. If you know, you know. Militech, meanwhile, uses the 6th Street Gang, a gang of violent former war veterans who were once community watchmen before becoming gun-ho dickheads who hate non-Americans. So basically, the Republican Party. But hey, my homies, they're not just the only two gangs. There are like dozens of others. Well, actually, I think there's about 7 different gangs in the game, and then many more in like the But anyway, aside from 6th Street and Tiger Claws, you have others who are so charming, like the brutal strength supremacist animals who live off of steroids and believe they can become a literal different human subspecies. Then you have the Russian mafia, like the scavengers, who want to steal your liver.
Hey, motherfucker! Come here and give me your liver!
Like the Russian government with Crimea. Then there's the hacker collective of Haitians who have never touched grass called the Voodoo Boys and steal my credit card and use netrunner abilities to end my life. And then you have the constantly lusting Valentinos whose entire goals in life are to seduce women, even if they have husbands or boyfriends. So basically, they're every alpha male in existence. And then you have my personal favorite, the Mox, a gang of sex workers who beat the shit out of anyone they think is a creep, who also contains my favorite romance interest, Judy, which is very based. And for the Nomads, there's no two groups better to explain them perfectly besides the Aldecados, the Uluku clan with Desert Mommy, otherwise known as Pat and Palmer, who are basically an entire nomadic nation who are capable and strong enough to steal military-grade technology. Then, opposite of the Aldecados, there are the Wraiths, who are... Right, so you know how there are children in school who they are gonna grow up to become heinous criminals? Yeah, that's basically what a Wraith is. Even other nomads call them subhumans. God. Out of all of the culture groups, nomads are probably the most race-based. It's not even a joke. But, moving past all that, on a purely world-building design level, this is the most fictional and unique world-building lore I have seen yet in gaming. And yeah, I know everyone's like, oh, but there's always gangs and stuff. But no, I love the way that all of the factions and so on are just have all of their own unique identities and just their own motivations, but also they're all intertwined in a unique way. Because unlike other games, say like Fallout New Vegas, for instance, all of the factions pretty much just hate each other and are all de facto independent nations. The kings of Freeside are unironically a freaking nation state. But in Cyberpunk 2077, every single group is entwined with each other, each serving the needs of the corpos, gangs, or other bastards who seek power. And just like serving someone's needs, how does this game serve my desires for character design? I know, that was a flawless, seamless transition. Fuck me. Alright, look, this section will probably be the shortest, but out of all of the open world role playing games I've played, this game is actually pretty funny, but also very unique with its character creation, which is why I massively prefer it over games like the Fallout series, Skyrim, The Outer Worlds, and various others when it comes to the character creator. And there are several reasons for this, but reason one, V does not look terrible. No matter how you design them, V is a very good looking character graphically and detail wise. Sure, perhaps some people don't like the voice protagonist, but I believe that the voice actors of Charame Lay and Gavin Drea are perhaps some of the finest voice actors in a game I have seen yet, as they put so much effort and passion into their lines, such as,
You made it. Good.
How's the sitch on board?
Stable, but tension's rising. Unsurprisingly. Oh, fuck.
What? What's going on? What the hell? Songbird!
V! The president! You have to...
Songbird! God damn it! Shit! 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 Fuck me!
Delamain, got it! We'll have problems if you don't fucking drive! Not bad.
Client feedback noted.
How's our ride looking?
Tip-top. Though alas, we are being pursued.
Delamain!
Please remain calm.
Paul!
Roadblock ahead.
¡Ay, mis huevos!
past the awesome writing for V. For me personally, when I was like playing the game, my personal go-to was always female V, whom I personally believe is probably the canon version, and whom I generally try to make look like a female John Wick. And damn does it fucking work, especially if you find the suit clothing items just the right stores. However, I think the funniest thing about the game is that there's an option for you to design your genitals. With female V, you already picked the boobie sizes, but you can literally get into whether you literally have your pubic hair shaved into a heart or like a single tower. Or with male V, you can you can pick if he's uncut, which is not a joke. Someone once said that the more little details one puts into their work, it really shows the love the creator has for their projects. And I will admit, CD Projekt Red, for all of their faults, are actually a pretty loving group. And I don't mean that in like, oh, corporations are good way. I mean in the product they made. Hence why they were dedicated to reviving this game with Edge Runners and Phantom Liberty. Which is why I'm far more forgiving with like little details like the genitals and so on. Because unlike other creators or YouTubers or reviewers who just make fun of it or just dismiss it as juvenile, I see it as just, some fun little Easter eggs you can do. Still though, my V is uncut. Hey, what's up guys? Okay, so this video took me about 2 months to make, and I genuinely apologize for that, but it's been a crazy time. I've just entered university and like I'm having less time to do things, but I am gonna keep making this series, making the now it's THWO Projekt Red was Cyberpunk Ever Good series, but also I'm gonna get back to making that Metal Gear content. So I'm gonna mix it up. So a Cyberpunk video here, a Metal Gear series video there, and just see how generally it goes. But I wanted to thank everyone for all the support I've been given, and I'm really sorry for like the upload times. I really am trying my best to like be something established, but it takes time. But yeah. So thank you again for watching. This is the end of part one, and I shall see you again in a month, hopefully. Bye.